Welcome to the Legacy Conversation.
Welcome back to the Legacy Conversation with Jennifer Moore. Jennifer is the owner of Springs Legacy Law, PLLC, where she helps individuals and families in Colorado create clear, practical estate plans and navigate probate with confidence. I'm Shameika Rhymes, and today we're looking at a question a lot of people have. Do you actually need an estate plan? And if so, when does it start to matter? Welcome back, Jennifer.
Hi, Shameika. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So, Jennifer, do you really need an estate plan to have an estate, or is that a misconception?
The two are not connected. If you own anything, you have an estate. I think that oftentimes the thought is that, an estate is like a wealthy person's mansion and grounds as an estate. But basically, if you're over the age of 18 and you own anything, then you have an estate. Own anything means bank accounts, cars, things like that. So no, you don't have to have an estate plan to have an estate.
Okay. So that makes me excited because I'm like, oh, I actually have an estate then.
You do?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, what happens in Colorado if someone dies without any kind of estate plan in place?
Sure. So basically what happens is the state decides who gets what. If you're married, your spouse will get a particular portion of the net value of your estate, depending upon what your situation looks like, meaning, do you have children? Do you have living parents? Are your kids stepkids to your spouse, or are they children you both share? And the state basically will keep looking for family members. If you don't have children, they keep looking down your family tree, basically, until there's somebody to inherit. So I feel like everybody has the family member that they don't want to have get their stuff, or, it maybe would be catastrophic for them to get a lot of money. So it's a pretty good idea to put it down in writing. So you get to choose who gets your things after the time of your death.
That is definitely one way to look at it to prevent that one family member from getting it.
Yeah.
So how does someone know that it's time to start thinking about estate planning?
So anybody that is over the age of 18 needs an estate plan, at the very least powers of attorney. Certainly if you have minor children, you want to have an estate plan so that you can decide who will take care of them, who will take care of the money that goes towards them, and who will make decisions for you if you're incapacitated.
Well, who tends to benefit the most from having even a basic estate plan? And what is actually a basic estate plan?
Sure. So I would say a basic estate plan, who would benefit most would be a younger family that's just starting out, or maybe you don't even have kids yet. Maybe you kind of have just started your career and you're starting to accumulate assets. You would really benefit from a basic estate plan. A basic estate plan would be a will that says whatever I have at the time of my death, this person is who is going to be in charge of doling everything out. And these people are going to be the people that receive things after I pass away. Then there are also the documents that grant people power to make decisions for you while you're alive. These are powers of attorney. There's a power of attorney for financial decisions, which is basically any kind of decision other than healthcare, social media, finance, property, things like that. And then there's a healthcare power of attorney. And that is who gets to make decisions for me about my healthcare if I'm unable to. And then there's also things like, what happens to my body after I pass away? Do I want to be on life support if I'm not going to come back? So all of those things are included in a basic estate plan. And they're just really important to make sure if I walk out of my office and get hit by a bus, I get to decide who takes care of my kids, who steps in and makes decisions for me, just to kind of make sure that my wishes are carried out. So,
well, are there situations where someone might not need much planning at all?
Yeah, I think so. So things like bank accounts, investment accounts, you get to name the beneficiaries on those. So If you're a person that doesn't own any real estate, only has bank accounts, then that would be a situation where you wouldn't necessarily need a will. I still think those powers of attorney are absolutely priceless. Because if something bad happens to you, you just really want somebody to be able to make decisions for you while you're unable to make them for yourself. There are also things like transfer on death deeds. So if all you have is a house and you have one child that you want that house to pass to after the time of your death, you could execute a beneficiary or transfer on death deed. And then once you die, your certificate of death is recorded and that property automatically will transfer to the person. So those can be kind of attractive options to avoid a will or a trust or kind of more traditional estate planning methods.
Well, how does having minor children change what someone needs in an estate plan?
It changes it a lot. Because if something happens to you while you have small children, you want to be able to decide who's going to take care of those children, who's going to have physical custody of them and be able to make decisions about school, sports, things like that. And then you have to ask yourself, is this person the same person that I want to have in charge of whatever money I leave for my children? Maybe that answer is no. Maybe you have one sibling who would be an excellent choice for caring for them, but they're terrible with money. And you have somebody else in the family that's excellent with money, but maybe not as nurturing. You get to name who takes care of them and who takes care of the assets that you're leaving to take care of them. So it's really important just to make sure that, again, not to be worst case scenario, but, maybe there's somebody that you absolutely wouldn't want to have your children for whatever reason. If you don't make that decision, then they could petition and say, hey, I'm a great choice, and potentially wind up raising your children and getting their hands on the funds that you put aside for your children if something happens. So it's really important if you have minor children.
Is this one like having godparents would come in handy that they could name?
Yeah, absolutely. Godparents, it's not officially a relationship that's legally recognized, but yeah, absolutely. If you have a godparent or somebody that you really trust, especially if your first choice for somebody to care for your child is not part of your family, if it's a friend or something like that, it's crucial to name them to take care, because they would not be the court's first choice if something happens to you and you don't have a plan in place.
Well, can you walk us through an example of two different people, one who really needs an estate plan and one who might not need much yet?
Sure. So one who really needs one would be a young family. Maybe you don't even own a house yet, but you just had your first baby. It's a really good time to again, set up who takes care of that child if something happens, and make sure that you make those decisions so that your child is well cared for. Somebody who maybe doesn't need one yet, there's kind of a caveat to this, because everybody, again, if you're over 18, you need powers of attorney and things like that. But as far as testamentary devices, wills or trusts, if you are just kind of starting out, you may not need a will yet. But if you're younger and just starting out, and things like your social media, your email accounts, stuff like that are important to you, you need a will to name who gets control of those after you die. So I really think, not to be like salesy, but I think that everybody would benefit from some type of an estate plan. On the other end of life, if there's an elderly person who has a house and, maybe one child that they want it to go to and not a ton of assets, those beneficiary deeds or transfer on death deeds that I mentioned earlier might be an appealing option if that's the only asset that they have. So that would be maybe an example of somebody that doesn't necessarily need a full-blown will if there's just one asset. So
I never thought about email, passwords, the social media, all those things. So that is something to think about. Thank you for that.
Oh, yeah, of course. Thank you.
Yeah, well, that is it for today's episode of the Legacy Conversation with Jennifer Moore. If you're in Colorado and you're trying to figure out whether you need an estate plan or what that should look like for your situation, you can learn more or reach out at springslawpllc.com. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to like, subscribe to the show, and leave a review if you found this episode helpful.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.